Ms. Tara Sonnenschein, thank you very much. Former Undersecretary of State for Public Affairs, Public Diplomacy at the Department of
Thank
State.
you, Fez.
Now, let us know about your new assignment, what you're doing and what brings you to disasters and disabilities around the world.
So after leaving the State Department, I've come to George Washington University, which for me is a wonderful opportunity to do public diplomacy, but
In a different way. Yeah.
outside of
Yeah,
government. But in my time as a reporter, in my time at the State Department, I really have come to understand the difficulties that those with disabilities in the world face. And when I would go out on public diplomacy missions, I would often meet with individuals who had cognitive or physical disabilities, because often they don't have the voice and the support and the opportunity to let government know really what they need. So when I saw this United Nations report, finally, on the problems facing those with disabilities, I knew I needed to write about the report
Right.
and shed light on
Yes.
it.
Your piece on CNN website about disasters and it's a very it's a new aspect to the problem, to the issue. A lot of people don't even think. Yes, we know that there are disabled people around us, and we don't even notice, or we don't even think of the difficulties that they have to go through day in, day out, and much less so in the developing countries, especially countries like Pakistan, India.
Yes, in the developing world, firstly, the numbers are staggering. We're talking in general about as high as 1 billion people in the world that have some form of disability.
Almost 1/6 of the world population. Wow.
And in developing countries, most of the people with some kind of disability find it very difficult to work. So you begin with basics, the ability to get up in the morning and go to a job. Now imagine layering on to that difficulty a disaster.
When something here, it's like earthquake in Pakistan, 2005, October, 8 years.
I bet there are many people who survived the earthquake who can tell you what it was like to be in an earthquake with a disability. There are also many people who emerge from a crisis and become disabled. They were fine beforehand, but a structure falls upon them. So it is critical that we start to think in advance. What will happen if there's another earthquake in Pakistan? Are we ready to deal with the needs of the disabled before, during, and after?
So that'll create more disabled people, compounding the problem in the society.
Even temporary housing. In my research, very often we see tents or temporary housing put in, but they're not accessible for people with disabilities. Very often we see education programs starting in refugee camps, but are there materials in Braille? Are there materials that can help if you are deaf? Are there special education programs if you have special education needs? So if we are not weaving those issues into our planning for disaster relief, the humanitarian assistance is limited in what it can do.
One argument which is made in those countries, in those societies, that they say that we don't even have proper infrastructures for the normal people who full-bodied, able-bodied people. So what you talk about these disabled people,
Yes.
because we can't even provide for the.
A lot of the reaction to my CNN piece had this undercurrent that I found somewhat disturbing, which is we have enough to do for the mainstream.
Exactly.
And I found myself realizing how we have segregated populations and put people into boxes and into
Able,
ghettos.
disabled,
Able, disabled. This is something we did for years with women and girls. This is something we have done with the LGBT community. This is something we do to the disabled community. We cordon people off. But you know, a natural disaster does not recognize these lines, these artificial lines.
When it strikes everyone.
It rains on everyone
yes.
at once. The mud, think about mudslides. Think about a wheelchair and someone navigating a wheelchair in thick mud. That's the image I want to give. Think about trying to swim during a tsunami in a wheelchair, or you are deaf or blind. Think about medications. You are told to evacuate an area. You can't get your medications quickly. You can't communicate your needs. You're suddenly told to move to higher ground. You don't understand what that even means.
Yeah.
We're sitting here, you might hear some drilling. Drilling is a normal sound in good times. In an emergency, someone is drilling to get you out. And you may be under rubble. You can't hear the drill. You don't know anyone is even coming for you. Now, this is not a problem just for Pakistan or India or Haiti. It happens in Japan, where they had a triple disaster, a nuclear disaster. Can you imagine having a disability during a nuclear disaster or a tsunami? And it's not just other countries. In my own country, the University of Kansas has looked at Katrina, which we remember was
New Orleans,
a huge storm. It turns out that we were not ready to help disabled people. You see a few helicopters taking somebody off a roof on a rope. Imagine the weight in a wheelchair. Imagine trying to get to the roof where it's safe. So
if you're wheelchair bound, I mean, you know, what?
You're trapped. And so I feel we must shake people and organizations and governments and say, this is not acceptable. Now, I'm happy in Pakistan, I've been doing some research. There are some organizations that have come along and are paying attention to the needs of 5 million Pakistani people who suffer with disabilities.
So there are like 5 million.
At least.
With different kinds of disabilities.
Cognitive, emotional, physical. And so these organizations, they need foundations to support them. They need individual charities. They need governments. They need laws. We have to have disability legislation. In certain countries, India, for example, they are now saying we need to hold a certain number of positions in the government for those with disabilities. We talk about quotas in other areas and arenas where you set a minimum. So I feel like this is an issue worth championing, to be a champion for it. Landmines. We don't even think about the disabilities that come when a child steps innocently on a landmine and needs a prosthetic limb, artificial limbs. So we assume that when the disaster is over, it's over. But years after war and conflict are still landmines buried beneath the earth, and there's still Mother Nature potentially there doing something.
So what, I mean, your piece, you know, on CNN website, I mean, it does highlight the issues. But what about I mean, do you think these societies really have the resources to handle with this massive, gargantuan problem?
I think the solutions are not always money. First, awareness and public education. Second is to weave the disability thinking into our planning, existing plans. If you already have an evacuation route, did you imagine how is the evacuation route for somebody who's disabled? If you have education and it's mainstream education, what are you doing for ramps into your schools? Very basic things, and also for governments to simply say, we care. We recognize that it could be me or you. I've gotten so many emails in the last 24 hours. Did you know I have a child with cerebral palsy? Did you know my father is in a wheelchair? Do you know I have a Down syndrome child? So much of the time there's a stigma attached to disabilities. So we have to break the taboos. We have to say this is a legitimate issue. This concerns a lot of people. And this is a level playing field issue, meaning US and Pakistan, we can argue about a lot of things, but we can agree that both societies have citizens who are disabled. We can agree on the need for joint action on services. We can agree that if our assistance is going to be effective, we have to think about
So awareness
people.
is an issue that raise. Actually, it has to be in their thought process, like you just said. When we are planning something, are we leaving out this disadvantaged part of our population?
The other
Somehow-
is families, many poor families. If a child is born into the world with a disability, the child is shunned, ends up in an orphanage, ends up out on the street. And then that disaster happens. And to me, if we don't talk about this, then that family somewhere, that mom, should feel it's okay to acknowledge that you have a child that needs something. You don't have to hide the child in the house. You don't have to give the child
This
away.
taboo issue, this stigma issue is a
Very
big issue,
real.
especially in the developing countries, because a lot of times people do hide their children because they suffer from some kind of which is
It
not
can be
their
a club
fault.
foot.
Yeah.
It can be, I've seen stories, it's even minor. But that then creates emotional, psychological damage. That child is then disadvantaged educationally. So you are creating, by not addressing it, we're going to spend more resources after the disaster. When if we began from the beginning to say, this is part of the real world, not some other world that we don't have time or money to pay attention to.
You talked about legislation to deal with this problem. What do you suggest? I mean, America does have this Disability Act, where they have people have to build ramps and restrooms. They have to be in certain order or way. But what you suggest for the developing countries who don't have those kinds of resources, but to start with?
One, I think there should be a demand by developing countries for more exchange programs and visitor programs to bring information in. So one is ask for support, for help. How do we do it? What does it require? Second is foundations around the world who work in India, Pakistan, Africa, take on the issue. Go into the local community. Now our embassies are doing a lot, and our USAID. When I went out with the embassy was supporting autism programs in Turkey. Those programs had support from computer companies who realized the technology can help very much with communicating during a disaster. So let's get the private sector, the foundation, the government, and one teacher or leader to say, I am ready to talk to my class tomorrow about
Very
these
grassroots
issues.
level.
Very
Yeah.
grassroots, local, indigenous growth around this issue as being a legitimate international affairs issue.
Very good. Well, yes, we do have, the developing countries, they have their share of issues. But coming back to the United States, do you think we have done enough here in this country?
We have not signed a
Exactly,
UN
that's what-
convention.
yes.
We must.
Why? Why not?
The politics around the United Nations, the politics around privacy and not getting involved in having government tell anybody what they should be schooled at home or in a special school. We've taken it so far that it becomes divisive. So I think we have to set a better example. We have a lot to teach, we have a lot to learn. So let's be part of a global conversation about this. And let's break down these barriers to discussion. And Voice of America today is breaking down one barrier by saying, this is an important issue. This affects too many people to pretend it's out of sight, out of mind.
Pakistan, again, I was born there, I grew up in Pakistan, and I have seen, firsthand that people with these issues, any even cognitive or in a very early stage in their lives, they get assigned to certain things in life. For example, if a child is blind, they would ask them to memorize the Quran, and they say you're just a hafiz, which is an Arabic word, somebody who memorizes the Quran, which is a noble thing to do, but just because some child is blind, you're stereotyping and you're, like you said, you're boxing them into some very limited professions.
Exactly, or no work at all. Imagine the untapped labor potential, the market of labor pool that we have ignored in...
You mentioned some very nice numbers there, amazing numbers.
Amazing GDP numbers lost for
Please talk about that aspect. How does, bringing these disabled people, disabled part of your society into the mainstream workplace, how does it affect the economy? Because economy, frankly, is the main issue right now Pakistan is facing. So how they can improve? This could be a small step, but it will help them in the long term.
If you take somebody who is disabled and offer them an opportunity to work, they are off the street. Your homeless is down. They can generate an income. Your crime is down. They can manage to contribute in a meaningful way so your society's relationships are different. If you give these people an opportunity to contribute to the labor force rather than be unemployed, underutilized, and discarded, you then unlock the potential of your nation to be involved in a community. If every community looked around and said, I'm going to take one person who's sitting with a can in a wheelchair, disabled from a war, what about the veterans? Look how many come back disabled in the United States. And if we make these people who have served a country feel they cannot be utilized in their society when they come back, we should all be shocked into our sensibilities.
This problem is more shocking for the female disabled population. On the one hand, yes, they are disabled. Sometimes they can't speak or can't hear, and then they're female.
Yes. For the women and girls, I see now more programs such as Gallaudet, a school here. They send people right after a disaster into the community, and they make sure that they bring their expertise to the moms and the daughters. In Iraq, for example, many of the women are widowed because they've lost their caretakers. So this becomes an issue, but it's no longer just children or women. The numbers are too big now to ignore.
Tell me, how can we use this idea, this helping people with some issues, to create some kind of a reconciliation among nations, groups, among societies, within a country, outside the country, among countries? How can we help?
Disabilities is a common language. People who know somebody with a disability or themselves have a disability speak a certain language. And this language can be used to say, let's put aside our religious differences for a moment. Let's put aside our political differences. Let's talk about how we're best going to get up this ramp, this hill. Let's talk about sports. We know that sports is another international language. The Olympics brings nations together that would never sit together. Healthy competition. Sports diplomacy can and does now involve disability sports, wheelchair basketball, volleyball, almost every sport that we have Special Olympics, Paralympics, and this is a wonderful way of taking the universal language of sport and disability and conflict resolution and saying, let's put the rest aside and let's give young people in particular an opportunity to be in sport. And to see, we see this South African case, very famous, unfortunately, of a crime, but he's a runner who ran on artificial limbs. So we know there are these great stories out there of people who manage with their disabilities to be included. And that's the word I want to come back to, is inclusion. I think where the world is moving with 7 billion people is how are we going to be inclusive? How are our models going to be models of inclusiveness, tolerance, and diversity? If we cannot work together as a team, none of us are going to win. I always like to say in the International Space Station, we can figure things out when you're trapped on the moon, but we can't figure out when you're trapped in a wheelchair how we're going to do something. So I think we have to break out of this segmentation and balkanization that we do as human beings and say, you know, in this globalized economy, teamwork and disabilities is one that requires a team. You can't really address it on your own. So I'm hoping that this issue, there are so many organizations out there have been waiting for someone to take this to scale. Please, somebody raise the level of conversation because we're working in tiny little ways.
Very good.
I think we can do it.
I think you have done wonderful, you know, you have taken the first step by writing this piece, this wonderful, eye-opening piece actually, and I hope you can go to, like, you know, more important and more significant ways where we can make a real difference in people's lives. So what you're planning to do, something, I mean something...
So now I'm going to try to find out all the organizations that are working in the disability space and see how they are convened and how we can create some ambassadors of goodwill for that community. We have some already.
I mean, you're trying to create an organization, or it's just like
I think using the power of the internet, we can create virtual networks where people are exchanging best practices.
Maybe GW can have some kind of an alliance with the university in Pakistan, and you
see
can
where
discuss
this will
these
go.
programs. Yeah.
The sky is the limit.
Very good. Tara, thank you very much for being with us again.
Great pleasure to be with you.
Wonderful discussion.
Thank you.
Great.